Good morning, guys. Kori here. I received a question yesterday from a client, and actually receive this question quite often by most of my clients regarding the transition from weight loss to weight maintenance. My client was concerned about what he's going to need to be really careful about and what are the things he's going to need to be thinking about as he moves into this new period or new chapter of this journey. I answered a question similar to this recently in another blog post, but what I kind of want to focus on today is really addressing the primary differentiating factors between those individuals who lose weight successfully and maintain that weight loss versus those individuals who lose weight successfully but don't keep that weight off, and we can call them regainers. In the literature, you'll see a lot of information regarding the differences between maintainers and regainers. A lot of things are similar between these two groups of people, okay? Maintainers and regainers both experience setbacks. They have difficulties with certain areas of their lives. They face temptations. They have individuals in their lives who they feel may be sabotaging their efforts. So they both feel also that they need ongoing support. One of the #1 things that aids individuals in losing weight most successfully is having a strong support system. They need people that they can draw on when they're facing difficult situations or circumstances in their lives, particularly when they relate to weight loss. They both recognize, too, the groups, that the way that they think about their goals is hugely important. They both recognize this. They understand that the cognitive aspects are just as crucial as the behavioral aspects. Now, the key differentiating factors between these two groups are that regainers will typically stop weighing themselves. In one recent blog, I was asked, should I continue weighing regularly? And yes, you really should. Is it something that I, as a nutrition consultant, can force you to do? Absolutely not. It's a learning tool. However, weighing every day also is a measure of accountability that, if you have lost weight, needs to continue. So regainers typically stop doing that. They fear the number on the scale, they don't want to look at it, and they experience a sense of trepidation about seeing what their weight has actually done. But if we don't know, if we don't have that knowledge, then there's a limit to what we can really do about it, right? So #2, maintainers engage in positive self-talk. They don't as often engage in strategies that have them talking down to themselves. They're more self-compassionate. They know that if they can look ahead, if they can exhibit a level of positivity, that they're going to be able to be more persistent and consistent in their efforts towards maintaining their weight. So they recognize, again, just how imperative and important it is to really monitor how they are thinking about their experience. They recognize, too, what sorts of distortions can worm their way in to their thinking, like very black and white or rigid sort of thinking, like making assumptions, like missing the bigger picture. Also, knowing when to go between really focusing on the process and the steps taken to get to an outcome versus that bigger picture and what is at the end of the tunnel. Maintainers continue the behaviors they used during weight loss. And I think this is one of the most important things. They continue to not buy certain foods. They set limits for themselves. I, for example, don't go down certain aisles in the grocery store. I just don't. There are certain food items that I never put on my list. We talk about how important it is to be flexible and non-rigid. At the same time, we all know the value of having a boundary in order to be safe and secure in what is very important to us and what we value. They also, maintainers, continue to exercise regularly. That's something that has to stay very consistent. The National Weight Control Registry has shown that individuals who have lost up to or more than 10% of their weight and kept it off for a year to 5 years exercise almost every single day for at least an hour. If someone has lost a significant amount of weight, that's what they're doing. So there's this combination of behavioral factors that have to do with actual nutrition and how they're fueling their bodies, how, and with what they are, and then also the physical activity component. Other things, strategies that maintainers use. They eat off of smaller plates. They know because they have tracked, and tracking in the literature is one of the #1 variables for losing weight successfully. And they know because they've done it what an appropriate amount of food is for their individual bodies. So they set guidelines for themselves like this. They set rules for themselves regarding frequency of meals, size of their meals, not maybe necessarily eating until they're actually physiologically hungry. So they've chosen different boundaries and rules to put into place for themselves to hold themselves accountable and keep themselves in check. And then, of course, they allow for some relaxed eating, but they don't allow for that one relaxed meal to turn into 2, and then 3, and then a week's worth of that, because they have learned how to play their actions forward. They know how they're going to feel if they do that, and they know how easy it is to get off track long term. The fourth thing that I want you to consider in terms of differences between maintainers and regainers is that maintainers engage in active problem solving. You guys have heard me talk about the what the hell effect. That means that with one small slip up, we can go cognitively to a very blanket statement like, well, I screwed up that situation. I didn't do that very well, so now my whole day is ruined. It's very black and white, very blanket type thinking like that, that regainers engage in. Maintainers are able to take a step back and say, okay, let's look at this objectively, let's get curious about what just happened. I notice it, I recognize it, now how can I take responsibility for it? You see the difference in that approach. So when they notice behaviors in themselves that perhaps were default sorts of behaviors before when they were struggling with their weight, they hold themselves accountable for it. They take responsibility for it. They set new goals around what they can do. In one research article I read, I love qualitative literature because you get at the real experiences of the dieters themselves. One woman said she was at her sister's house and she was putting food away from a dinner that they had together, and she just dipped her spoon in the bowl and just started eating as she's putting food away. And she said, the second I noticed it, I mean, she got over the sink and like spit out the food. I've done that before. I've eaten mindlessly before, and I've thought consciously, why did I just do that? And I've spit out the food. It's not worth it. So, in review, 4 key differentiating factors between maintainers and regainers. Regainers stop weighing themselves. Maintainers weigh themselves daily. Maintainers engage in positive self-talk. Regainers beat themselves up. They don't have the self-efficacy, the belief in their ability to influence their behavior that maintainers do. Maintainers continue the behaviors that they engaged in when they were actually dieting. And then number 4, maintainers engage in active problem-solving skills. I hope this helps.